Ted Benna, the founder of the 401k, currently holding $8.9 trillion Americans are saving for retirement, says in some cases, especially today, I quote, "It doesn't work." Here are three of his concerns. First, in an interview with Guideline, he says, "I knew right away 401k plans would be a big thing because most large employers already had thrift or savings plans where employers made after-tax contributions and received an employer match. The marginal federal tax rate at the time was around 70%, so I knew senior executives especially would have a very high level of interest where they learned they could make pre-tax contributions. Now, the average marginal tax rate is 15%. That's the average, not the top. You can see in the chart here, a little before the 401k went into effect, 71.8 in 1970, down to 70%. This is the top marginal federal tax bracket. Now that is down to 37, much lower, almost as low as it's been in the last 50 years. Not quite with 28%, but still pretty low at 37%. Today, of course, with the average marginal rate being 15%, with the Social Security and Medicare problems or solvency issues that's going on, with the national debt, with the deficit, with the spending problems of the US government, who thinks taxes are going to go down? I just don't see this happening. I don't think many Americans do. They basically have three options. They either need to, number one, cut spending. Yeah, right. Number two, print more money, which has kind of been their go-to for the past almost 100 years of just inflating the dollar. Or number three, raise revenues. Those last two seem to be the most likely path. In fact, the US Comptroller General, basically America's CPA, has been saying for years that in order to fund the national obligations, tax rates would have to double by 2030. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that they are going to go that high. I'm just citing him. And the longer that this continues to be put off, the more likely it is that taxes will raise and the higher they likely will have to be. So with the 401k created when the highest marginal tax rate was 70%, to put money in pre-tax and pull it out later, hopefully when tax rates went down, made a ton of sense, especially for those senior executives. It was a no-brainer. Today, if your average marginal tax rate is 15%, especially if you're in those lower brackets, why would you exactly want to defer that out into the future if you think that tax rates are going to go up? Again, there's no guarantee that they're going to go down, up, stay the same. I don't know what's going to happen, but just looking at it from this perspective, you can see why it's a little less appealing to many. Second, there's too many options, it's too complex, and these skyrocketing fees. Another quote, "A major negative is what happened to the fees and the complexity of the 401ks. Early days, it was very simple. Employees had two investment choices. They decided in 25% multiples. It was easy for them to understand. You then expanded to 10, 15, 20 funds, and they needed somebody to help them sort through and pick them. And so what happened is that as that structure began to build in complexity, the level of fees just skyrocketed from being very low. They ultimately expanded up to 1.5 as much to 2.5% or so of fees." He also gave an example of a small business that approached him for some other solutions aside from just the 401k, because especially when they have less employees, fees can be much higher. They were paying 2.75% in fees per employee. So his point, they've gotten much more complicated. So there's a lot of options. Again, they just said that very simple. You pick this one or you pick this one. He has recommended since then that he would like to make it where that's the majority, where there is the option still to go out on your own and make your own picks. But after, I believe he must have done some sort of survey, a rough quote from him was that when he gave people the textbook things that are picked for you and the ability to go out on your own, about 90% of them stayed with the options. Hey, if you just want to go with this, here's how it works. It's really simple. Nothing you got to do. 90% went with that. 10% went with where you go out on your own, and then you could pick your own mutual funds or whatever. And this makes a lot of sense. There's a very famous study of people who basically came to an event, and after the event, they gave them a free t-shirt. And they asked them how their experience was, and they rated it on some sort of scale. They then did the exact same experiment where they went to the event, same experience, and afterwards they gave them an option of 3 different color shirts, including the same color shirt that was in the first one. So you would imagine that the people who had the option of multiple different shirts, since people might have different favorite colors, might have enjoyed that much more than the people who just got the shirt given to them. So they surveyed the second people as well, and actually it was the opposite result. The people who were just given a shirt had a much better experience than the people who had the choice between the 3. Similar thing here with being able to just, here's what we offer, pick one or the other. It's very simple. They're not going to have a ton of fees. People tend to be much more satisfied with that than going out on their own, having all these fees, the ability to invest in different mutual funds. It can create a lot of confusion. And as he has pointed out plenty of times, the opportunity for financial people to come in and make a lot of money on things where they might not necessarily be providing value. Of course, some provide a lot. Hey, and real quick, if you're enjoying the video, please leave a like and let me know. Back to it. Third and finally, another direct quote. He says, when you get down underneath, particularly, let's say 15 employees and less or whatever, 401k doesn't work. It becomes too complex. It becomes too expensive. So there's a couple main reasons for this. One, with just the high administration burden. So there's all of the paperwork. There's additional fees, as we talked about before, with the prohibitive fee structures and employee turnover challenges. So there's almost 29 plus million lost 401k accounts nationwide. So that is going to reflect a system that often it doesn't accomplish what it was actually designed to do. And a little side note, there's around over 71 million actual 401ks in the US. So if you think that you might have an old 401k, find that out. There's 29 million that are lost. If you're within 10 years of retirement in the US, you're beat up. There's so many different things you can do. You just don't know what specifically to focus on. Subscribe. I make videos for you twice a week on how to do that peacefully. Bye-bye.